Okay, there we go. There. Okay, now we're recording. Okay, and I'll mute again.
Okay, welcome everybody to the webinar today, where we'll be looking at real-world applications of AI for technical writers and editors. I'm Diane Kennedy, and I'm representing. I'm a longtime writer, but my webinar presentation was sponsored by IC Tech, a company I'm currently contracting with. Today's agenda is a little bit about STC Chicago, and Dan, I think, has some things in the chat link about upcoming events that should be of interest to you. Introduction to me, the speaker. A number of people from your membership have contributed to this presentation. Some basic AI concepts, using AI for writing and editing today, and how I used AI to develop this webinar. So a little bit about STC Chicago. I think that most people on the webinar are members. It was founded in 1955 and is one of the oldest chapters of the Society of Technical Communication. Its members include technical writers and editors, content developers, instructional designers, academics, usability professionals, web designers, developers, translators, and probably many other hats that people wear who belong to STC Chicago. You can find us on LinkedIn, and also at the bottom of the page is the website that you can go to, especially for joining for next year and for the events coming up. My name is Diane Kennedy. I'm a technology consultant and innovator. I started my writing career many years ago, where I was an educational writer editor for Doubleday's educational publishing division that was here in Chicago. It was called Laidlaw Publishing, did a lot of textbooks, and is no longer here in the Chicago area. I transitioned from being an educational writer to a technical writer and trainer, and have been doing that for about 30 years on a very broad spectrum of topics. I was on the development team of an ISO standard, ISO 8879, which is called Standard Generalized Markup Language. It was the beginning of merging output from technical writing, textbooks, books, for delivery not only in print, but also on the web. And that what ISO standard was used for approximately 10 years, mostly by government publishing that adopts that and still requires a flavor of that called XML. For many years, I was the vice president of digital publishing technologies for an association called IDEA Alliance. It was previously called the Graphic Communication Association, and it had everything to do with technologies that are used in publishing. I'm the editor of two ISO standards, 12083, which was a standard for publishing scholarly articles, and currently ISO 20616, which is a computer-to-computer communication protocol in the printing industry for communicating print quality from the printer to whoever purchased that kind of print. And I'm working today as I do a lot of independent writing, and also I'm a senior technical strategist for a company out of Burlington, Wisconsin, which is just north of Lake Geneva, called IC Tech. I would like to give some credits because in developing how we can use AI today for technical writing and editing, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just my experience. I've been using it quite a lot for a variety of different kinds of writing, but I know that your members are also using it. So in preparation for this, I'd like to thank Savannah Mitchum. She's a science communicator and also a freelancer from Argonne National Laboratory. Ashley Gordon, a senior technical writer for Luma Health, and Travis Simpson, a senior technical writer for BNP Associates. So their input really helped to guide me in making this, designing this webinar, and in some of the findings I'll share with you. IC-Tech is the company that I'm working with, particularly as a technology strategist in AI. They're a Microsoft Gold developer, and their mission is to automate production and authoring of accessible content using Microsoft Word. I know not everyone uses Microsoft Word, but it is a very popular tool for writers and editors of technical documentation. They hold a patented plugin, and their initial mission was to enable you to create documents in Microsoft Word and export to a particular standard, XML, which is basically textual data that it has tags embedded in it to identify various data fields like author title, chapter title, part number, whatever you're writing about. Currently, I've worked with them in beginning to develop an array of tools where AI functionality is also embedded to assist writers and editors with the repetitive, tedious cognitive tasks that are the part of your job that's not so fun and very time consuming. There's a broad scope in technical communication, as you know. The tech writers that I talk to wear a number of hats. If you are independent, or if you're in an organization and they know you can write, they will often ask you to do things other than just writing technical manuals. So you might be working on user manuals, assembly instructions, release notes, white papers, proposals, market requirements, marketing materials, troubleshooting guides, and many more things, as you all know. I'm going to talk a little bit about introducing AI, because as I spoke with people, they kind of know what it is, but there's a whole jargon that might be useful for STC members when they talk about AI. There's a lot of buzz about AI today, as you all know, and we need to know, what is AI? Are there different levels? There have been a lot of scary stories about AI killing off mankind and taking our jobs. And how can I use AI tools to make my job easier? So artificial intelligence is defined as a technology that enables machines. I think of machines as being computers, but it could be other machines like robots, I suppose, to perform intellectual tasks or make decisions that can usually only be accomplished by the human brain. Now, that's a very broad definition, and we'll look into that a bit further to narrow it down to what is important to us. Examples of artificial intelligence include visual perception or visual recognition, speech recognition, categorizing things, making some kinds of decisions, or in our case, edits based on past input data patterns. If you are probably already using AI today. If you're using a smartphone for anything other than making phone calls, you're probably already employing AI. Digital assistants like Siri are AI based. Voice and visual recognition, all voice recognition, visual recognition, all employ AI. And there are apps that are tailored by your preferences And they do so by using AI. So for example, if you log on to Facebook or LinkedIn, you may get friend suggestion, and there's AI behind that. If you're using Netflix, your Netflix screen that you pull up is different from mine, because it'll say our recommendations for you, and that you is based on my past patterns and what I watch. And those are all everyday examples of AI. Tech writers today are really using, I think everyone I spoke to said, I'm not so concerned about it. I'm kind of excited about it because I'm already kind of using a kind of AI today. What you see on the screen is just a screen snap of a particular document that I was authoring. And you'll see at the bottom, we've got the word accuracy highlighted, and it's misspelled, and automatically pops up a spelling window, and it will tell me the right spelling of the word. If you want to know, am I using the word in the right way? What's the common definition? You can see that. Oftentimes you'll be writing about things that are not in a normal dictionary. They might be in a technical dictionary, or they might be words that are very specific to, let's say, a product that you're documenting, and you can add to the dictionary. But all these are very simplistic forms of AI that probably every tech writer is using today. So spell and grammar check are examples of things that you use. You don't think anything, you probably enjoy having them, actually. Depending on who you speak to, there are different levels of AI. You may hear of ANI, which stands for Artificial Narrow Intelligence. And this is what, when we apply artificial intelligence to a single task. Somebody needs to mute their self, I think. So ANI is artificial narrow intelligence. So we can do a single task like check spelling, for example, an example of ANI. The next level of artificial intelligence is often called AGI, artificial general intelligence. And this is when you use artificial intelligence to perform a complex intellectual task. Again, something that a human can do, AGI. A third kind level of artificial intelligence is known as ASI. And this is the scary one, as you can tell by the picture. It's when AI can perform intellectual tasks that are beyond human capability. And this is the one that people are afraid of. Now, opinions about the levels, their names, and so forth will vary. I think there are some models that show 5 levels of artificial intelligence. So I just want you to know I happen to pick these 3 because I see the acronyms ANI, AGI, ASI pretty commonly in like news articles and so forth. We believe right now that we are at the ANI stage. If there were 5 levels, we might be 2 levels up, but in the 3-level model, we're currently working at an ANI level. Many people, analysts, believe that we're at ANI, and I've read some opinions that the others are theoretical, and we don't know when we'll reach them or if we ever will. I think, one of the gating factors in using artificial intelligence is the huge amount of computing power, the huge number of servers, the energy that is consumed and required, and the billions and billions of dollars that it will take for us to move to different levels of artificial intelligence. The origins of AI come from big data. The AI revolution really began when we started to collect huge volumes of data that grew exponentially over time. The data came from many sources, including published works. All the time, we're digitizing more and more documents that were only available in print or as a PDF. News feeds go into big data, social media, purchasing power, personal information that's gathered from people. Big data is the term for this large, diverse collection of data. And the important thing to realize about it is that it grows exponentially over time as more and more data is collected, either through creation or through digitizing existing documents. The field of data analytics has grown so that we can have insights into the data patterns that could be used to categorize, make predictions upon, feed us information in summary to help us make decisions. And so I consider, and many consider, big data like the starting point for AI. Okay. One kind of AI is machine learning that you may have heard about. It's a component of AI, and this is the idea that we can enable a machine or a computer to learn and perform tasks without being programmed. In the past, computers worked for us, but generally, I mean, always behind the scenes were computer programs that were written in a variety of language, like in the old days, COBOL, and now C++ and many other things. But the idea of machine learning means that machines can learn without being programmed just by tasks and data that are fed into them. Machine learning can be supervised, and this is where a human trains the computer to recognize patterns, or can be unsupervised, where computer algorithms analyze data and help your computer, your machine, to learn. One of the machine learnings that I've worked with recently is in the IC Tools plugin for Microsoft Word. I know a lot of authors tend to have difficulty styling their document, using styles or creating styles that can be applied to the text in a uniform pattern. But you can actually take a document and begin applying a few styles, and the machine can learn and apply the styles to the rest of the documents. Those are only important not just for the look of the document, but if you're outputting a document to XML for some other use, or if it's required, particularly if you're working with anything to do with government, they require you to write to standards and to output not only your PDF so you can read it and maybe drive a print function, but also so that you have the raw data with the data fields encoded that can be used in other ways. Another term that you will hear is deep learning. So deep learning is an advanced subset of machine learning, and it employs a model that simulates the human brain called a neural network. What the neural network is, in very simple terms, is at least 3 layers of interconnecting algorithms that call to one another and that can simulate the working of the human brain. And so when you hear deep learning, that's a subset of machine learning, and it's using this model based on the human brain. So we have artificial intelligence, technology that enables machine to perform tasks that we might perform. Machine learning, which is a special kind of AI where computers get the ability to perform tasks without being programmed. They're prompted instead of programmed to give you the result that you want to have. And then finally, deep learning, which is the most advanced, that simulates the neural network of the brain to perform tasks, provide answers, that sort of thing. Now, the AI that we hear most about today, and many of you are using, is based on something called a large language model. A large language model is if you think of that diagram in the previous slide, it is part of deep learning. And large language models are based on the concept of predicting the next word. And if you text, for example, if you're texting, you might, depending on the device you're using, and let's say you're using the keyboard on your phone and you're writing a text message. Some text programs have a little window now, and you'll see the next word come up, so you can just click on it instead of typing in all the letters. I don't know if you've noticed that. I work with an iPhone, and just the simple text messages, that's an option that comes up, and it saved me a lot of clumsy typing on my cell phone. I guess my other option is just to use the microphone and dictate. But large language models, the first thing they do is predict the next word, or sometimes the next series of words. So the AIs based on large language models employ billions of words of ordinary language. And it's not just standalone words, it's how words are used in big data, documents that are in big data. And it employs the word combinations that are in there so that it can guess what the next word that you're using or want to type in may be. You also see that if you are using ChatGPT and you're trying to write a prompt, it will prompt you for what's a common next word after the word you've just entered. So chatbots, which all of these, ChatGPT, Bard, and Llama, are trained to interact with us using these large language model technologies. So what is generative AI? That's the one that we hear is going to replace jobs and change things. What is that all about? Generative AI is the concept that artificial intelligence can generate text, images, music, video, and more. You may have heard of deep fakes, which are videos that look exactly and sound exactly like a famous person that we might know. I know Tom Hanks has been, I'll call it, hacked, and there's things out there of him saying and doing certain things that he never said or did. Those videos were generated, deep fakes, by artificial intelligence. It uses models that learn patterns and structure of their input data, and then can generate new data that's similar. It is considered to be ANI, a narrow artificial intelligence, because we're focused on doing a single task. Even though creating a video may, to me, seem like it's very complex, in the end, it's a single task, and it falls in that category of ANI. And text generation is based on what I talked about, the large language models, but image or music generation uses other types of algorithms. And in the case of image and music generation, there's something called generative adversarial networks, where you really have two parts that talk to each other, something that generates and something that critiques and generates and critiques, two talking back and forth. And there are many other kinds of AI that you may or may not need to know about, depending, I guess, on your level of interest. So should you be worried about Gen AI? Some may be concerned that generative AI will replace their jobs. For example, if we can get a machine or a computer to do something without programming, by using AI to learn and to make the machine do something, those people may be concerned about their jobs. I know that writers, like the writer's strike, had to do with, of course, money, but also the use of AI. The actors strike the same way. So there are people that are very concerned about that. people that I interviewed that are tech writers and myself are not real concerned about it. We've kind of believe that most of the content we create, although we may create some content that are summaries of other things, by and large, tech writers are writing about something brand new. In other words, it's not part of the big data that AI draws from. And so it can't really be totally created by artificial intelligence. I think the other thing is that the text generated by AI does not, while it may be very precise and factual, or it may be very funny, or romantic, or whatever the mood you ask for when you're writing a prompt to the AI, because it's so regular, humans can pretty easily identify whether the text that's generated was generated by AI. On LinkedIn, there's a guy named Matt Thomas, and he did an AI challenge where he had text and then he edited it and an AI edited it. And I think they did it live with maybe 200 plus people. And every time we could tell what was generated by AI. So it just doesn't yet have that human feel. The other thing I will tell you is that there are a host of tools being developed that are basically AI detectors. So we can tell if something was generated by AI or not pretty reliably. Not 100%, but pretty reliably, there are tools that you can use for that. There is some concern among tech writers that their management may not understand AI and where it fits. And if they hear that their writers or editors are using AI, they might jump to the conclusion, well, I don't need that writer. I'll just use AI to write something. That's not really true, but I think it points out to us the idea that we, and by we, I'm saying not only members of STC, but the AI community really need to do a good job of communicating with management in various companies, that employers, so that they understand what AI is, what the limits are, and that they still need the tech writers that they currently employ. So where is Chicago STC today in terms of AI? I would say from people I've spoken with, most are currently experimenting with AI tools. Most of them view AI as an assistant technology. I view it that way. I think most people see that some of the things that AI can do for you are just like advanced spell checkers. They can do some things that take a lot of time for you, things that might fall through the cracks, and they can make your job much easier. Most people are using AI to assist with some very tedious tasks that take a lot of time and we hate. So we'll look at some common uses of AI in the upcoming slides. Here are some AI tools that are available today. OpenAI has developed something called ChatGPT. It's a chat box. That means we talk to it directly, and it can perform many tasks. It can be integrated into existing products because OpenAI was originally an open source consortium. They've also provide their APIs so that we can link it into other things. Google is developing something called Bard, or Alphabet, if that's what you call Google. And all we know about it really today is that it will understand and generate text responses. It's a chat bot. And there's Meta / Facebook has an AI called Llama that you may hear of. Again, it's a chat box, so it'll understand what you say and give you some answers and responses back. Another one is PDF GPT. Many tech writers have the experience of having to their only input is not accessible. It's not like Microsoft Word or a Google Doc. It's actually frozen in a PDF format. So PDF GPT is an AI, it's a chatbot, and it lets you interrogate a PDF document and ask for things, query-like functions on a PDF. And then there's a tool called Unfluffer. This is a standalone tool. It's powered by AI, and it helps you remove the fluff, hence the name, restructure sentences, paraphrase your content so it's very clear and concise. Unfluffer makes your text sound like it was written by a computer. So that was the one that was used in the AI challenge that I previously discussed. Open AI Chat GPT is the one that I find is most commonly in use, and it's one of the ones that I use. There are the PDF GPT. Tech writers have told me that they have used that as an easy way to interrogate PDFs, which otherwise you have to export into something else and in order to use, really. And Unfluffer, as some people use. Most of these, all of these right now are standalone applications. So what that means is you're writing along in whatever tool you use to write or edit. And if you want to query or do something else, you have to exit and go to ChatGPT, for example, and ask the question, have the function performed, and then go back into whatever editorial tool you're using. Now, that's not going to always be the case, but we're in early days. So if you're looking, if you're like me, I'm a very curious person. I like to learn new things every day, and I track like what's on the market. How can AI be used in these many ways? I ran into this thing called Toolspedia. It's a nonprofit listing of emerging AI tools in many different categories. Like a category might be health or education, or there's I don't know how many, a lot of categories in Toolspedia. You can find Toolspedia at toolspedia.io. And it claims to be the world's largest directory of AI tools. Right now, it says that it has 1,242 AI tools that will help you work faster and smarter. I think some of the tools you can at least try out for free to see if that tool would be valuable for you. Most of them, it's that way. There's quite a few tools I found that you can't just use for free. You can try it out and then you can decide to purchase. A little bit about OpenAI. They've been in the news a lot lately, and they're the ones who developed ChatGPT. OpenAI is an artificial intelligence research laboratory, and it started out as a nonprofit, OpenAI Inc. As time passed, it became very obvious that to really develop AI, you need a lot of money because you need a lot of computing power behind you, and that's very expensive. So it spawned as hooked on the side, a for-profit corporation known as OpenAI LP. And in OpenAI LP, there was a long-term multi-billion-dollar partnership formed with Microsoft. And the goal of that is to ensure ongoing development of AI that can benefit everyone. Microsoft, part of the partnership is that computer technology, that server, power, I guess I would say, that Microsoft has as a corporation, its infrastructure is being used by OpenAI to advance and train their AI technologies such as ChatGPT. And GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Just a little curiosity note. Microsoft is deploying OpenAI across its product suite. So if you use Teams, you will begin to see component apps within Teams have some AI features integrated within them. ChatGPT needed an interface so that people could use it, and it made a lot of sense to put that inside for since Microsoft's their money behind it. They are using Microsoft Bing. If you're on a mobile phone, there's a Bing app. Otherwise, you can use Microsoft Edge, and in the top ribbon, you can click on ChatGPT and use it that way. And the idea being to provide AI access for the public. I've heard several interviews by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, about their philosophy of developing AI. And it's different from some of the other companies. They really believe that their AI should learn and be trained by general public. And they were shocked, I think, by the tremendous uptake of people using ChatGPT. And I think they're finding that they're reaching the peak of their computing power. So it may be very slow for you to get your answer from chat. The other thing that happened to me just last week, and it was the first time it had ever happened, is chat told me, you have reached your limit of prompts for today. Come back and try again tomorrow. All that, I think, has to do with the uptake and people using it for all kinds of different things. I also think that there's now a paid layer, a paid access to chat that will give you unlimited prompts per day, and you go to the top of the queue when you're getting your prompts returned, so you'll get faster response time. Again, we're in the early days, so all of this could be totally different 6 months from now. There's a lot of things that writers and editors can do with AI. And I find that myself and other people are using it for our most tedious tasks. You can take something that was written for a particular audience and ask to have it copy edited for a different audience. You can change something that was written for technical people into something that marketing people would understand, for example. You can edit to a particular grade reading level. You can conform to a word or character count. I've used this in working with companies who are answering proposals. Oftentimes the proposals are answered using a wizard, and field may be limited to in 200 characters or less, or 500 words or less. And that is a tedious task that I could perform, but it's much easier to use an AI to do that and to turn edit tracing on so I can see what they did and maybe tweak it a little bit, get closer to my character count that I need. Translating into another language is a function. I'm not a language expert. I can't tell you how accurate or appropriate the translations are. You can validate a style or content conventions, and you'll see an example of that in slides coming up. And verify citations. If you're writing anything where you are citing, you can call out to outside programs that can validate that the citations are there. And you may be working in an area where accessibility is a requirement, particularly around any graphics that you have, and you can validate that this document is accessible to a certain accessibility standards. And if not, the AI can help you make it accessible. So getting started with AI. Just a minute. Currently, most writers use AI tools in a standalone mode, ChatGPT being the most common. When you communicate with a chatbot, what you're doing technically is called writing prompts. And just like programming or just like using a program, this garbage in, garbage out paradigm is true for using chat. If the question you ask is not precise enough, you're going to get some garbage that you didn't expect. When you communicate with a chat box, it's called a prompt. It's like a question posed to the bot, and that question and how you phrase the question is critical. You can find online many prompt cheat sheets, but there are key factors in when you're talking with the bot. You might include a role. So you might say, answer as if you are a technical writer, or answer as if you're a marketer. Answer as if you're trying to sell. So that's a role. There's also tones. You may see on chat, there's like 3 different levels that you can work with, but then you can also say answer in an ironic fashion or answer in a precise fashion. That's the tone. You have to be very clear, just like writing a program, what your expected output is, what you want included, writing style, and restrictions, what is excluded from the answer that you get. Chat GPT understands prompts best. I think it's learning from people that are asking it questions. And so these GPT or chat cheat sheets will give you like 15 roles that you could use when you ask your question, 15 tones that are most commonly used. So although it's not as simple, it's often not as simple as asking a straightforward question. If you want a very precise answer, you need to consider some of these other kinds of things to be put in the prompts that you give the chatbot. Tips for prompting: set up the context by specifying a tone or output style, state requirements such as summarize, define, recommend, clearly define the task that you want, specify any restrictions, do not include whatever. And then you really have to use a trial and error method to get the desired outputs that you want. A good tip is that if you're a tech writer and you're using chat to help you with certain tasks, and you use this trial and error method, which you'll have to use to refine your prompts, it's a good idea to build a prompt library. That is, it could be a text file and notes, and you just put the exact wording that you used for the prompt that gave you what you wanted, the results that you wanted. And I find writers building prompt libraries for their most common tasks. Because prompting requires expertise, we're seeing an emergence of what I call built-for-purpose artificial intelligence tools. And those built-for-purpose tools have these prompts built in, so you don't have to go through the learning curve of writing very precise prompts, or the fun, depending on who you are. So here's some built-for-purpose tools. Pseudo-Write is a writing tool for fiction writers. Write generates content for social media that aligns with your brand and your point of view. Grammarly is an editing and proofreading tool that'll check spelling, grammar, and punctuation. The company I work with has a tool set called Icy Tools, and it comes, there are plugins to Microsoft Word, and you can have them on the ribbon at the top of the Word. I'll show you a few examples, and they can do very tedious tasks, such as standardizing the citation styles that you use if you're citing articles and you have a requirement to use a certain citation style. Generate keywords, check accessibility, automate the generation of alt text for all your graphics. They can see the graphic and write the text for you. Compliance to various formats, if particularly in government work, you find that. So there's a whole host of new tools that are built for purpose so that you don't have to do the prompting. And this is just a few of the tools that I found. Nothing that I recommend. These are just ones I found in the past couple days. And you'll see that more and more of these will come to market. So you can have somebody, it's an AI that writes your email, organizes your email, creates slides from a document, all sorts of things these are built for a particular purpose. Because they're built for a particular purpose, they're ANI, they're narrow artificial intelligence in that sense. They're standalone apps. The IC tools that I work with, I've helped them design built for purpose tools for writing or editing scholarly articles. This is a Microsoft Word ribbon, and you'll see a new part of the ribbon called intelligent content. And on there, you're going to see, for example, I can check the front matter of a document. And the assistant, the prompts behind the scenes say, I'm happy to help you. Do you want to check the length of your abstract? Do you want to substantiate the abstract, meaning what's in your abstract is actually in the document? Suggest keywords, or no, I'll do it manually. These are just some quick check front matter things. Check abstract length, and it'll come back and it'll tell you abstract length should be 200 words. Do you want me to check? You can push a button and say yes. So you're not directly the point is you're not directly interacting with chat. You're not writing your own prompts. You're in the tool that you're doing your work in. You don't have to leave and go to a different tool. And you're going to see more and more of that. These are under development. Task prompting, check abstract substantiation. Is what's in my abstract really what's in the document as I've edited and made changes over time? And in this particular case, it came back and it said there are a few sentences in the abstract that are not directly substantiated by the content, and they've highlighted them. And then you can make the edits, or an AI might change that for you. Check references is a very common one. And if you have references at the back of a document you're preparing and they're not in the correct style or they don't exist, an AI might help you do that from within your editing session. How I developed these slides, I employed chat in a number of ways. I researched various AI topics. I used it to get examples and summaries. I used the IC Tools AI to get the screenshots that I just showed you. And I used something new that's in Bing. I think it's maybe 3 weeks old, and that's Image Creator. And most of the images, this is a little shot of Image Creator, and I ask it to create an image to represent big data. Most of the images that you saw in this presentation were generated by ChatGPT, the Bing Image Creator. And that's always been a problem for me, of getting the exact image that I can use when I'm documenting or creating slides that I have the rights to. So all of these are generated by me on a certain date using ChatGPT. So my summary is we're in the early phases, ANI. There are tools available now to help you experiment with AI and figure out how it can help you. You should check for new tools often, and I will say that chat changes probably on a weekly basis. I know some of us have noticed that maybe it's not as smart as it used to be. I don't know why that is, but we're in the early days, so it's kind of kind of fun. And I think we always need to keep an eye on, not totally rely on chat, because it is generative, so it can make stuff up, or the term for that is hallucinate. Learn how to write prompts. If you're using it on a daily basis, you'll do this trial and error thing and find a prompt that works for you, and then start a prompt library. and find out which tasks are the most tedious and can you use AI to solve them. And then look for tools that you commonly use having AI built into them. So that's the summary at the end. And I know we're real close to time, but if there are questions, maybe Dan, you can read the chat and answer the questions so we don't see the whole chat stream.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
And some of them I can cover fairly quickly. Let's see. Okay. Zach Molisani mentioned that Google updated Bard 2 days ago with Gemini AI. If anyone wants to look in the chat, they can see the link to that. Another question we'll come back to in a bit. You mentioned Infopedia. The chat mentioned there's a similar site called futurepedia.io. That link is in the chat. David Noack mentioned that to the point of infrastructure, it should be noted it is the rise of cloud computing that's brought AI to the point where we're at today. It's true that massive compute capability is necessary, and the cloud, which is basically a collection of servers and data centers all over the place, is what is providing this capacity. That is Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google, IBM. What some of those techies call the hyperscalers. Yeah, they're providing that capability. Jack Molisani also mentioned all the major CMS vendors are adding AI to assist doing structured authoring. And he specifically provided links for Pareto and Fluid Topics and Zoom-In. Those are all in the chat. You can get them. We have a question here from Julie Diaz, and it's a fairly detailed question. And Julie, if you like, I could unmute you and you could ask the question live, so I don't misrepresent it. So your choice, but you're welcome to ask the question live if you're still on, or are you not still? I'm not sure Julie's still on. So okay, I'll ask the question. Regarding text prediction, I will start with an observation and then a question. Regarding text prediction on your phone while using voice to text, I often find that the AI creates completely different meaning by making a sentence negative by adding do not instead of do. And one other example recently was that I clearly said distraction and it typed destruction. That is not the best example because those were close to spelling, but it seems like they're trolling me. I have to check every word before sending. I think many of us have had that experience had similar experiences with various types of spell checkers or any sort of suggested wording. You start a word and it suggests a word that is a word, but it's not the word you intended.
Right.
And, I had a former manager who was notorious for just accepting those suggestions and saying things she didn't intend in emails. Do you have any suggestions? And Julie asked, do you have any suggestions? I have a friend that talks forever into WhatsApp and doesn't correct anything, and her messages are pretty on point, and she has a minor speech impediment. In other words, are there ways to, do you have any suggestions for how to get around the limitations, shall we say, of the suggestive, the autocorrected isn't always correct?
Right. I would say all of us have, I'm sure, had the experience of autocorrects and send the message out without checking it and being embarrassed by what we sent out. I really don't know, other than I keep a close eye on everything that it does. I think some things it's very good at and I trust more, but I never I guess I never use it and just say whatever it says is right and I'm done. It still requires a review, and I think there's certain tasks like the word count task, or one of the magical ones for me is that if you're writing an article and submitting it to, let's say, to 3 different journals and they have different citation styles. It's really good at correcting the citation style, like, like at the snap of a finger, where for you it would take a lot of hand editing to do. But no, I don't have any advice. We're in the early days, so for me it has been fun to imagine what tasks I would like AI to do for me and to see if it can reliably do those tasks, or even if it's like an 80-20, if it does 80% of it and then I have to proofread and 20% I have to do myself, it still saved me some time. So I'm not advocating, I'm certainly not advocating to just let AI take over and write the total summary for you without you reviewing it and making sure it interpreted it in the right way. And so much of it is also in the prompting and the accuracy of the prompting, and also the database, the big data that is behind it is what you're asking for, part of that. One thing I found that it's really terrible at is anything to do with any kind of mathematical computation, and I have not looked into that. But because it's built on a large language model, chat, it makes sense to me that it wouldn't be able to do complex mathematical computations.
Okay. Okay, good point. Okay, Savannah mentioned as a question, any tips for discussing the use of AI with management? I'm curious how others have approached this.
Because I'm an independent, I really haven't had to do that. It seems to me that companies that are building software tools that have AI integrated, that sale needs to be made from the top down. I don't know how to educate management as an individual. That's really difficult. So maybe there's an association that the management belongs to that should be hearing about AI, and how I really believe in writing. It's an assistive technology. The other thing I've read a lot about is that technical writers, because they distill information and they write in such a precise, and must write in such a precise manner, many of them are going to be positioned to become experts in prompt writing, which there already are in LinkedIn and other places. The job classification of prompt writer is becoming a career now. So, but it's a tough nut to have management look at AI and see what it really is and how it really should be used. I don't have an answer.
Okay. Well, that's an especially interesting point. The other question is, could managing a prompt library become a possible career path? And it sounds as you're saying it potentially could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Two other questions I wanted to cover. David Nowak, how much are you seeing in your work that people are using text generated by AI for the work they do, other than using tools to help facilitate?
The text generating that I've seen people use are to actually read a document and create the summary or the abstract. That way you're sure that what's in the document is reflected there. That's one use. Someone else talked about the idea of their position was reading some very complex technical scholarly articles and boiling those down, and then they're going to interview the author before writing a human, an easily understandable summary of what that scientific paper said. I've heard someone say that they've used chat to generate interview questions that they would ask the author to clarify certain things. I know that people are using it in ways to, like, I used it to create all these the graphics for this, which for me it was like, oh man, I spent, if you're doing something, a webinar, educational, or even training materials, getting the copyright clearances and making sure that the image you have the right to use, and also that it is an accurate reflection of what you want to communicate, has been helpful. I don't think in technical writing you're going to see, other than those kinds of things, I don't think you're going to see much use of it. I think it's mostly in the area of fiction writing. There's lawsuits right now where people outline a story and they'll say, write this in the style of John Grisham. And he's one of the ones, Stephen King, I don't know, there's a number of them that are suing these AI companies for using their copyrighted materials to train the bot in how to do a style. I don't see it much. I can't see that it's going to be generative is going to have that much of an impact in technical writing, because the data is new, and other than maybe to style it in the way the house style is, for example. But that's after the fact. It's more of a, the editing after you've done your initial writing.
Okay. And is there an example of the the writers writing stuff? This ties into one. We do have one more question from Maggie Harden, and it's actually a question that looks to me like maybe I should try to speak at the webinar on this topic. Any insights on how using these tools may affect intellectual property ownership of content created with these tools?
Yeah, I think that's certainly that's it.
First week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's a huge, obviously it's a huge concern. Just the lawsuits I'm mentioning about writers saying that you can't use their copyrighted materials to train the AI in a certain style. And there's a lot of concern about that. And I really don't know the answer. I will say one, just came to mind one kind of an interesting case. I work with a documentary filmmaker, and the way documentary films are most often financed is through grants. The problem is that this gentleman is dyslexic. So I have been working with him because much of what he writes in response to the questions for the grant are incomprehensible. They make sense to him, but no one else could read it and understand. And so I've been using chat to read his paragraphs and restate them in a way that the people making the grant decision can understand. It's not truly generative because I'm feeding the ideas into it, but for someone with dyslexia, they probably wouldn't be a technical writer or belong to SDC, but you never know. It can be a really good tool to help with that.
Okay. Well, think on that note, since we are a bit over time, but I think we've covered all the questions in the chat.
My-
So I'd say if we can, I'd say remind everybody that we'll be sending an email with a link to the recording of this webinar, and also you can see Diane's email address there on the slide, which I put in the chat as well. But by all means, I take it that Diane is inviting folks to email her with
yeah,
questions they may think of later.
yeah. Or just to have a discussion about what you're doing or what your concerns are, that sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you, Diane. And we do have a number of comments in the chat about basically very informative presentation. Thank you for presenting. So your presentation is very much appreciated. Thank you, and thanks to everyone who attended. And we welcome you to keep an eye on SCC Chicago for future events.
Yeah, and I hope to meet some of you at the happy hour in December.
Yeah, that'd be great. And we'll probably run another social event sometime in the spring. So as well. So anyway, thanks everyone, and have a good rest of your day, and a good weekend as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.